So I got good news and bad news. If you're good at factoring, no, it's actually good news and good news. If you're good at factoring, this is going to be an easy section for you. It's just one more thing to add on to that idea of factoring. And if you are struggling with factoring, the good news is you get more chance to practice it. That's kind of fun. We're going to use factoring to solve a quadratic here. And here's the basic guideline of always when you, first of all, you're going to look at problems like this. And the thing about this is you can't use your normal like, oh, they added 12, I subtracted 12. They multiplied by 8, I'll divide by 8. That's not going to work here because we have a v squared and we have a v. We have two different kinds of v's. There's no way to get this v by itself because there's two different kinds. And so anytime you have an equation that has two different types of the same unknown, like a v and a v squared, like a m and a m squared, the only game in town is to start by getting one side of the equation equal to 0. Make sure you write the quadratic in standard form. Standard form means highest powered term, then the next highest powered term, then the next highest powered term. So a v squared, then a v, then a 12, or a m squared, and then an m, and then whatever happens. But put it in that order. That'll give you a quadratic. We're going to factor that thing. And then we're going to set each factor equal to 0. And I'll explain kind of these last steps when we do them, why they're going to work out. But this problem, they were kind enough to already start with it equal to 0. So I don't have to worry about step 1. And they're also kind enough to already have it in standard form, so I don't have to worry about step 2. I'm just going to factor this thing. And when I factor it, I'm trying to think, that's this thing where we have two sets of parentheses. So we're multiplying two things together. The only way to get a v squared is with a v and a v. And for this 12, I have a couple options. Maybe it's 4 and 3. Maybe it's 2 and 6. So before I start just throwing numbers down here willy-nilly, let's think about that. If it's 4 and 3, I'm going to get a 4 and a 7. That's not going to make 8. Even an odd, it's not going to give you the 8. But another way to get 12 is with 2 and 6. I'm not worried about the signs right now. I just know I'm going to use a 2 and a 6. And a few other things I know. This is a positive number, so these will have the same sign. And they need to combine to make a negative. So when I'm looking ahead, these multiply to make a 2v, these multiply to make a 6v. The question is, can these combine? If these have the same sign, can they combine to make negative 8? They sure can if they're both negative. All right, so that's just the factoring piece. v minus 6 equals 0. And now here's the next part. The idea is, this says something times something equals 0. Two things multiplied together equals 0. Like this is all one chunk, this is all one chunk, and their product is 0. The only way that could ever happen is if this is 0 or if this is 0. That's the only way to get 0 as an answer, right? So what we're going to do is once we have it factored, we're going to take each factor, the v minus 2, that's going to equal 0. The v minus 6, that could equal 0. We need to figure out both of these equation answers because this is going to actually have, there's two different answers that work to this. You need to find both of them. So when I solve this equation, we get v equal to 2. That's pretty pre-algebra type stuff. Solving this equation, v equals 6. And then that's our answer. Our answer is 2 or 6. Now the thing I want to just really make sure I make really clear, I don't want you guys thinking, sometimes kids make the mistake of thinking, okay, so this v is 2 and this v is 6. That is not what we're saying. We're saying if you let's say, for instance, we let v equal 2. If v equals 2, then this becomes 0, and this becomes negative 4, because 2 minus 6 is negative 4. But this is 0, and 0 times negative 4 is 0. So 2 will work. If v is 6, instead, this is going to be 6 minus 2 is 4, but that'll be 6 minus 6 is 0, so I'll have 4 times 0 is still 0. So we're not saying that this v is one thing and this v is the other. We're just finding two values for v that'll work in the original equation. The other thing I just want to point out is like once you pick v equal to 2, take 2 squared minus 8 times 2 plus 12. On your calculator, do that. 2 squared minus 8 times 2 plus 12. You better get 0. Then take 6 squared minus 8 times 6 plus 12. 6 squared minus 8 times 6 plus 12. It'll be 0. So both these numbers work in the original problem. So we'll just see a whole bunch of that. It's going to be a whole bunch of factoring, getting stuff equal to 0, factoring, setting each factor equal to 0, then using very simple algebra that we've been practicing forever to solve, and then listing all the answers that work. This is kind of fun once you get the hang of it. Oh gosh, did I say that on video? I did. And I'd say it again. This is kind of fun once you get the hang of it. It's like a puzzle. Puzzles are irritating when you don't know how they work, and then once you know how they work, they're kind of fun.